5 things that you can do immediately after watching this video that can transform your retirement if you have a 401k, 403b, or 457 plan. Stay with me. 401ks are one of the most common forms of retirement accounts we use as Americans for retirement. The 401k plan was a tax provision born in the 1970s, initially as a deferred comp plan for highly compensated employees. Now, since the 1970s, in the half century since, it has morphed into the retirement plan of choice for many Americans. And it often consists of an individual contribution from the worker. And if you're fortunate, your employer will contribute a percentage of your salary to the account. And basically, it is a self-directed plan to help you save for retirement. Now, as a financial advisor, I deal mostly with IRAs, individual retirement accounts, but many of my clients do have 401k plans. And whenever I'm meeting with them, there are some things that I have to remind them to do with their 401k plans to make sure that they are in good order, because most people have a set it and forget it mindset with their 401k, 457, or 403b plan. So I'm going to tell you 5 things that you can do today when you end this video. Log into your 401k account and do it right now. That can help improve your odds or improve your quality of life in retirement. So first things first are check your beneficiaries. There are many retirement accounts I see that do not have beneficiaries or have beneficiaries from 30 years ago. There was recently a case in the news where a man who worked for a company for nearly 40 years died, and his 401k, which had grown to a pretty substantial amount in 4 decades, was left to an ex-girlfriend he broke up shortly after he started working with the company with. And it created chaos because he had 2 surviving brothers who thought that they were going to get this 401k plan with like a 7-figure amount. And this woman, who the guy probably hadn't spoken to in over 3 decades, was going to get the retirement plan, and there was simply nothing that can be done about it. I've seen ex-spouses on retirement plan. I've seen deceased children or deceased siblings on retirement plans. I've seen charities. Some people leave their money to charities, but I've seen charities that were defunct and no longer in operations. So each and every year, I remind my clients to please go into their 401k or 457 or 403b account and look at the beneficiaries. You should have a primary beneficiary and you should have a contingent. A primary is the first person that would receive your assets if you were to decease. A contingent is, let's say you and your primary beneficiary are in the same car together and you die at the same time, who would receive your funding? Also, with retirement plans, you typically don't want to leave a retirement plan to a child under the age of 18. There are some complications with that. Pretty much everyone who receives a retirement plan should be a legal adult. And most people don't want to leave a retirement plan with a substantial amount of money into the hands of an 18-year-old or even a 21-year-old young adult. So be mindful of the ages that you are assigning when you create your beneficiaries. Always name a primary, always name a contingent, and check that each and every year. Number 2, and I do this for my own paycheck, and I suggest everyone does this for paychecks because mistakes do happen. And even in my own paychecks, I have found mistakes. At the end of your paycheck, check your contribution that is listed on your paycheck or your pay stub and make sure it matches the contribution made to your retirement accounts. Employers make mistakes all the time. Sometimes they think they're making a contribution and it turns out they're not making a contribution to the account and the money is being held in a separate account somewhere else. Sometimes they think they're contributing one amount when they're really contributing under that amount. Employers and companies and financial organizations do make mistakes, and it's up to you as the primary account holder to track what they are doing and catch any potential mistakes. It becomes really hard to catch mistakes 3, 5, 7 years into the future. That's why I say each and every paycheck, you should be on top of it, making sure that the correct amount is being deducted from your account And the second step is making sure that correct amount is credited to your retirement account. I have had situations where the employer was deducting the retirement contribution and not contributing it to the 401k account. And it wasn't really spotlighted until this employee reached out to their employer and said, hey, wait a minute, where's my money? And they were able to correct the issue. But that employee could have been out of thousands of dollars simply because of a clerical error based on their employer's part over time. But because they were looking at their pay stub and because they were looking at their retirement account at the same time, they were able to correct the issue relatively quickly and get that money credited to their account. So every 2 weeks, every month, however often you are paid, make sure that money is coming out of your paycheck and is going into your retirement account. I've had other situations where people have told me, oh yes, I'm contributing to my employer plan. I look at their pay stubs and I look at their pay stubs going back several months and I'm like, I see no contributions to the 401k plan. They were not contributing and they just didn't know. They weren't paying attention. So a lot of people think that they are contributing to a retirement account and they really aren't. And they don't know it until they really study their pay stubs and look at their retirement account to see the changes in the balance over time. So it's a really important step. Okay. Number 3, make sure that there is a delineation between your Roth and your traditional accounts. My retirement plan is with Fidelity. And when we started with Fidelity, initially they were showing both the Roth and traditional accounts all together. And when I opened the app and saw this, of course, I panicked because I thought that they had documented a Roth rollover as traditional and they had just merged everything together. And it turns out they had. On the back end, they knew the difference between the Roth and traditional. And in subsequent iterations of the app, they were able to add that feature where I can go in and see what is Roth and what is traditional. But I have had situations in clients where they've done rollovers in the past and it wasn't properly delineated between Roth and traditional. And it's one of those things that if you don't catch it immediately, if you catch it 3, 5, 7 years up the road, it's really hard to go back and find the documentation for what was Roth and what was traditional. Oftentimes, either I can catch it if I'm responsible for the rollover. That's something I definitively look for. But if the individual is doing a rollover and if the financial institution that they're dealing with isn't particularly careful or particularly thoughtful, you can end up putting Roth in a traditional account or vice versa. And so you want to pay attention to what is in Roth, what is in traditional, and anytime you do a rollover, you want to keep the paper and the documentation with that rollover because that will tell you as of a certain date you did that rollover, what was traditional, what was Roth, and they'll also send out a tax form at the end of the year notifying the IRS that you did a rollover between a traditional account or between Roth accounts. But people often just disregard that paperwork and throw it out over time. It's really, really important that you keep that, and it is really, really important that you keep track and it is delineated what is traditional, what is Roth, and those two numbers are kept separate and not combined. If you deal with a company like I dealt with that combines the number, make sure that you call them on the back end and say, hey, I have money in Roth, I have money in traditional. What are the figures you have for Roth and what are the figures you have for traditional? So you can keep track and document what is Roth and what is traditional. This one is super important and people forget this all the time and it causes problems later up the pathway. Make sure that your 401k, 457, 403b has your telephone number, your email address, and your correct physical address. I've had situations with clients that, they move numerous times and the 401k company has an address from 6 moves ago and we're trying to do a rollover and they cannot do the rollover because they don't have an updated documented address. So this delays everything by 7 to 10 business days while they update the address and update all the contact information and basically grinds the entire process to a halt. I also have had clients who have retired and it was required minimum distribution time and they had an old 401k plan from 2-3 decades ago, But when they left that company, they forgot to update their contact information. And subsequently, they stopped receiving statements. They can't remember what company that 401k plan was with. And the 401k plan has no way of contacting that individual now to get that money to them. So it just becomes lost and undocumented money that the client can never access simply because they didn't update their phone, their email, and their physical address with their retirement plan company. So anytime you move, anytime you get a new phone number, anytime you get a new address, please do remember to document that information with your retirement plan and make sure that they have the most up-to-date contact information. Some retirement plans will do a backup contact information, like maybe you're the primary contact, but your I don't know, your parents' house are the secondary contact, or you have somebody else who's a secondary contact. In case the 401k plan loses contact with you, they can contact your secondary or contingent contact to say, hey, where is this person? How can we get in contact with him or her so that we can get them this money? So please remember to update your contact information. So this is the final one, and you'll probably laugh to hear this, but I see it more often than you would like to think. Probably in about 15% of cases, I see this, and it shocks me each and every time I'm dealing with a person's 401k plan. Make sure the money you are placing in your 401k plan is invested. Okay. Now, when we set up a 401k plan and we begin contributing, oftentimes the money is relegated to a money market account. A lot of people don't know this, but there is a whole second step where you have to basically go in and select your investments so that when the money is taken out of your paycheck, it is directed towards the investment versus being directed towards a money market account. Now, occasionally I'll get a call from someone who's saying, I've been putting money away for years and years and years, but it's not growing. And 80% of the time, it's a case because it's in a money market account and they forgot to go in and select an investment that makes sense given their set of circumstances. And some people are fooled by the word market, money market. They assume money market must mean stock market. And then they're getting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% rate of return, and they don't know why. And then you explain it to them. This is a savings account. It's not actually invested in the stock market. I've seen a few really sad cases from prospects. One woman came in, she was a prospect. She didn't become a client, but she had been investing for many years and the money wasn't growing. And she just wanted a financial advisor to take a second pair of eyes to it. We discovered it was placed in a money market account and it wasn't growing, but she had missed some of the best bull years in the market where her money really could have grown. Her money probably would have doubled in 7 years if it had been appropriately invested. And here it was just sitting in a money market account, and she had no idea that she had to do that second step, which is to go in and select an investment for her funds. Now, I was floored when I learned this, but like 70% of American retirement accounts are in target date funds. That's very interesting. I'm not a huge fan of target date funds because they're kind of like the mystery meat of investments. I have no idea what that investment entails. Maybe they'll give you broad statement of what is stock, what is bond, what is international. But I have no idea what it's invested in, how it's doing, or what benchmark they're using to measure that particular target date fund. But for millions of Americans, target date funds gets the job done. If your company offers a target date fund, it's something that you should definitely take a look at. But remember, when you are setting up a 401k or 453 or 457 or 403b plan, you need to take that second step of going in and selecting the investments for your account. So there you have it. 5 things that you can do today when this video ends that can put you ahead for retirement. If you found this information useful, please like, please share, and please subscribe.